a white dude, a little white dude, maybe about 5'7", 140, 150 pounds, ran in the crowd of us behind me and put a half a scissor in my back, an inch from my heart. That was my introduction to real prison.
Kev Mac video, you know, this is for sure. Kev Mac video, open your soul, represent your ghetto, baby. Kev Mac video, you know, this is for sure. Kev Mac video, open your soul, represent your ghetto, baby. For the dime moves and the lokes, for the 6-4s on spokes, for the OGs that did a dime, came back around on parole.
For the homegirls with the scrap game.
Lil' homies that gang bang, from Pelican Bay to YA, rearrange your mind frame. Yeah, I know what you been through. Shit you had to go tend to. Your mama gave birth on the turf.
I was the founder. I created Conan Parker in my mother's garage.
I had a lot of, lifting weights, and I was on swole. They started calling me Big Miz.
Original stutter box, East Side Fighters, Pebble on Bishop, Mill City Gangsta Bloods.
Kev Mac video, you know, this is for sure. Kev Mac video, open your soul.
This is the beginning.
That thing that individuals take for granted and so many hear about, a misnavigation or a miscalculation of how intense it is and how dangerous it is, almost cost me my life.
What did the 15 guys do when this happened?
Some proceeded to, do what they should have done, do what was required of them, and others, they just got out the way.
So it's safe to say you had a decent crew in that crowd, right?
Yeah, there were individuals who stood up and felt as hurt. I was physically hurt. They were emotionally hurt, and they responded in kind.
Now, when something like that happens to a brother, does it carry over to other prisons, or is it something that's only going to be handled on that yard?
In that day and time, in the early 80s, it carried over to every prison.
So the news just
automatic,
wire
without telephones, without the communication devices that are available now, it still managed to get to every prison.
Do you think the CCOs have anything to do with spreading the news?
Their formation at that particular time, they hadn't formed at that particular time.
No, I'm sorry. I said CCO. I meant COs, correctional officers.
Oh, absolutely. So I think they inadvertently share conversation with each other, and in an attempt to hurt an individual emotionally when somebody gets attacked, whether it's a black, whether it's a white, whether it's a Hispanic or an other, they will make comments like, "Oh yeah, one of your homeboys down at such and such prison got stabbed," or your people down there getting attacked. Just as a form of antagonizing folks. But in doing that, then they inadvertently share information that is something going on in another prison.
Right. You mentioned the Johnsons.
Yeah.
I was told, it was my understanding, Michael Johnson was one of the founders of the Harlem Crips.
Yeah.
Would you say that's accurate?
I'll say that's 50% accurate.
50%.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is the reason why I say it's 50% accurate, because at the formation of Harlem, it wasn't the Harlem Crips. The official title was Harlem Godfather with Class. There was no Crip associated with it. That the Crips were a different group of individuals, and the individuals who formed the community I come from didn't see themselves as typical gang members. They saw themselves as, grown men, even though they were just 19, 20, 21 years old. They saw the evolution of and thought the future held the foundation for an organization that would be empowering to the community.
So how far back does that foundation go?
1969.
And from my understanding, a lot of those dudes was like hustlers.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Absolutely.
So Harlem's always been about money.
Always.
That area. And your area, would you describe that as middle class, lower class, or upper class?
That was a middle class community. You talking about individuals who owned or rented homes, because there's not that many apartments, or there weren't that many apartments in that area at that time. So yeah, you had a lot of homeowners. And I mean, most of the individuals who I grew up with lived in homes. There were very few guys from my crew who lived in an apartment.
Did you grow up playing in Dinker Park?
I grew up attempting to play in Dinker Park.
Or why you use the
accurate
word
statement? I mean, because my athletic abilities were like mediocre, to say the least. So I gravitated towards the skills that I could be, like I said in the beginning, proficient and efficient at. I couldn't throw a fastball, but I could, I could hit a lick.
Hell yeah. And would you say you like picked that up from guys in the neighborhood, or from your brothers? Or?
Oh yeah, a lot of I'm an easy learner, so a lot of my skill set that I had at that particular time were picked up like from different areas, different communities, different individuals, older and younger.
When did you first hear of Fruittown Brims?
Around 1975 or 6.
Did you grow up with any of them before this gang bang came into play?
I pretty much grew with what became Fruittown from my era. I grew up with all of them.
Did y'all go to school together?
We went to school. I went to 37th Street School, which was on the other side of Normandy. So the individuals who populated that school are those dudes who became primarily folks from Fruittown.
When did NHB come into play?
I'm gonna say they were around, like, I don't want to offend anybody, but around the same time, and maybe before.
How about your neighborhood's relations to the jungle?
In terms of
getting along or not getting along? Did you guys clash when you was coming up?
There were definitely clashes, and quite a few.
And that was over color?
That was a lot of times it was over color, a lot of times it was over money. It was over hustling.
Okay. How far was you from Dalton Park? Is it called Dalton Park?
I don't know. I think it's got some other name.
Yeah, I think it does too.
But from the park that's on 27th and Dalton, 2 blocks.
And did Bloods populate that park at the time that you was coming
in
up?
In my era, sparsely, because the way the community was divided then, their area was primarily on the other side of Adams, and the park that they frequented the most was on Hoover and Adams. You got Hoover Park. Mm-hmm. That's the park that they frequented the most, the one that was on Hoover and Adams.
I'm glad you brought that up. Are you familiar with the Hoover family?
Oh, absolutely.
Did you have any run-ins with them?
Quite a few.
Okay. So were they actually Bloods?
Yeah.
Oh, they were Bloods. And so that was a natural enemy type of thing.
It was a natural enemy type of thing, but the fortunate thing was, and this is going to sound like crazy, them dudes were older than I was and some of my generation was, so they would catch us out of pocket and be like, if you wasn't so young, this is what we would do. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't like it didn't matter how old an individual was. Age actually was a significant factor for guys my age. If it wasn't, a lot of us wouldn't be around.
I heard similar stories about the Pyrus doing the same thing to the Crips in Compton. Nowadays, they just shoot anybody.
Yeah, you know, they don't care. It's like, well, I mean, to the degree that you could be with a family member and encounter somebody that was an enemy concern at the time, and they be like, okay, we ain't even tripping off you right now because you with your mom, your sister, your little brother, or whatever, but when we catch you by yourself, you know, we're going to have to take you down.
For the most part, Harlem Crips got along with all Crips. Is that right?
Oh, yeah.
Just a couple.
Quite a while.
Yeah.
Quite a while.
Y'all in good standing with all the Crips now, right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
But, you know, but then again, I'm 55 years old and I ain't in the streets like that.
Right. You know anything about that H thing?
Which H thing?
Halldale, Hoovers, and Harlem?
No.
Okay.
Unaware.
How was your relationship with the O-Car growing up?
Good relationship. Well, I mean, we all got along. But then, as you were saying, the community I come from typically was one of the last groups that actually engaged in that Crip on Crip activity.
Let me ask you, and this ain't for me, you know better, but a lot of people want to know why Harlem's never turned neighborhood. How would you respond to that?
Well, I mean, my honest response to that, and not trying to offend anybody, is because the Harlems was bigger, did more, and had a bigger reputation than most of the other hoods earlier on. And as time went by and the other hoods tended to expand, that the neighborhoods started being groups of. Like, they started reaching out to other groups that weren't neighborhoods and saying, here, you can be a neighborhood, you can be a neighborhood. For whatever the reasons was, whether it was for a prestige factor or a numbers thing, or the accumulation of, and I'm going to use the word, wealth, right? Or if that was it, then that's how that happened. But in my community, we never felt that we had to do that or needed the support of an alignment, because we were already founded in history of being able to operate solo.
Well, you guys were surrounded by Browns, basically.
But we were in the bowl.
So, I mean, that alone is like, hey, we over here, we already getting busy, so ain't no needing us joining what y'all got going on type of thing going on.
In an attempt to skirt that fine area between the truth of the dysfunction and how it could become glamorized, we were in that bowl, but never pressured by anything external.
Okay, explain how you guys try to expand into the 40s. What was that all about?
Well, I wouldn't call it an expansion. I would truthfully so say that the area known right now as the 40s is an annex of the 30s. That for my generation, there was no gang called the 40s. There were just 30s that lived in the 40s. There were just homies that lived in the 40s. The rise of the 40s is an early 80s phenomenon. And I believe, and in my heart, an extension of, because individuals, we all want our independence. We all want to be our own individual body and be credentialed as. And that energy, to me, is what created that buffer between the 30s and the 60s, or the 30s and the 50s.
But I'm not gonna say no name. I don't know if you want to say any names, but isn't it correct that a couple of those dudes, like you said, 30s lived over what's now called the 40s? Yeah. Those was actually members of the 30s that started the 40s, right?
I wouldn't argue that point right there. Yeah. I have individuals who I grew up with who had 40s tattooed on them, but that's because they lived in the 40s. But it didn't stop them from being from the community. We never made that differentiation. So my era, all it was 30s. It wasn't like the sex, the street identifications, the 35, 37, 39, those individual identifications were just the blocks that individuals who were the community lived on, or the blocks that individuals hung on, or, you know what I mean?
Mm.
Or just within the boundaries of, but never their independently identified groups.
How come nobody put Harlem on 40s?